So we published this article back in 2013, right? And I found this and said, we got to go over this because it has so many commonalities with what's going on right now, we've been going through the last 2 years. And this was back when the flu was considered in its pandemic stage or even an epidemic. And we had a really bad flu season. I remember that year. And there were so many people talking about the flu vaccines really helping to, fight this pandemic and fight the flu in general. And we wanted to outline the pharma route versus a natural route. And do you remember writing this article? Because I know you were the chief writer in this article, right?
I do, yeah. And I feel like a lot of things came together, research, ideas, philosophies that we'd been talking about for a long time really, came together in what turned out to be a very succinct article. But, the main kind of core of it, if I could just summarize, is really a testament to the body's ability to self-heal and the immune system's ability to fight off pathogens. And this is something I know we've spoken with many even conventional doctors who have said things like, no amount of pharmaceuticals or drugs will ever amount to the power and potency of the body's own immune system. So I think with this, we really just wanted to highlight, the kind of biological medicine perspective that the body is this incredible self-healing system that has just about everything it needs innately to recover, to fight off pathogens, to organize all of its systems and functions in a certain way, and just to sort of put question marks on what's going on outside and really turn the spotlight on how amazingly capable the human being and the human body is.
Yeah, I'd love to go over a few of the pieces here within this article that really highlight what was going on then and how that relates to what's going on right now, and how history may not actually repeat itself always, but it does have those patterns and it likes to rhyme. So, one of the things I was reading, right at the top was this quote that came from the Gazette there that said, existing vaccines miss significant quantities of the flu virus. This was about the flu circulating in any given year. And now you're talking about something that had years and years of research going into it, the flu virus. And I believe even that year it said about 30% of the people who got the flu got it right after getting the flu shot. That was documented. And you could even go further down this article and read some of the actual research that came out that said, notice in the early weeks of the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, that people who got the flu shot for the 2008-2009 winter seemed to be more likely to get infected with the pandemic virus than those people who hadn't received a flu shot. And that was through 5 studies done in several provinces in Canada at that time. What is it, Ben, about medicine that doesn't seem to look back in history and take that into account? Because it seems that what we're going through right now is exactly the same thing that we wrote about back in 2013 that was relating to 2009.
I actually think that this says more about the human being and the human brain than it necessarily does about the field of medicine, which is that our reactivity, during times of stress, acute or chronic, like we're going through now with, lockdowns and all these situations, it's been shown even through like fMRIs that the brain tends to shut down the prefrontal cortex, which is like this region of the brain responsible for long-term thinking, strategic planning, the ability to, see things out in the future, and really basically exacerbates or activates the limbic system, which is more of our primal part of the brain, right? That's like fight or flight. That's like, what can we do right now? Even dating back to the 1920s, Rudolf Steiner is someone that wrote about this. He was saying that, sugar is something that's responsible for narrowing our focus. And of course, we know that sugar, affects our blood sugar, insulin levels, and of course affects the brain, and essentially, makes us act a little bit more short-sighted. So I think it's kind of natural in a way that whenever there's times of acute stress, there's a lot going on. We're going to focus on the short term. Mm-hmm. I think what we want to do, and what came up for me when researching and writing this article, was trying to ensure that we don't also lose sight of the long term, and kind of recognizing what context we're in when we talk about things. Like you and I have always talked about when, you see articles in like the New York Times that say something like, stretching, good or bad, or this diet, good or bad, without really placing any context around it. So similarly, when it comes to treating any sort of pathogen, but in this case, this was H1N1 or flu using vaccines or anything else, the discussion around is this good or is this bad really, I think, needs to be far more nuanced than it currently is. We need to take into account the context. Are we talking about, is this good or is this right for society or for the individual? Is this good for the short term or is this good for the long term? And once we understand which of those four quadrants we're standing in, only then I think can we actually even begin to have an intelligent discourse around determining what would be the best way forward.